Welcome to another edition of Squib Kick Radio. I am your host, as always, Elias Powell, and I am joined here with Riley Pollock. Harry is unable to make the episode, but not to worry, we have the all-knowledgeable Riley Pollock. Riley, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Just got home from slow pitch, a little bit sore. Ready to talk some football today. The NFL's really picking up, so I'm excited to get going here.
Yeah, it certainly is. We have had the NFL finish their top 100 finally, and we've also got one big contract signing as of today. We also have a bit of quarterback shakeup in the CFL, and as always, we do have our CFL recap and preview for this upcoming week. I think we should start here, Riley, with our Week 7 CFL recap, though.
Yeah, it was another good week in the CFL. There was a couple close games. We saw a battle of the top two teams in the CFL. The Riders blew out the Lions, Edmonton crushed Toronto, and Calgary pulled out a close one against Ottawa. So let's start with that Calgary game. It happened on Thursday, and Rick Campbell, I respect as one of the best head coaches in the league in Ottawa there. He's done a lot with that team, but he made a terrible decision against Calgary. They were up 4, with a minute 9 left. And instead of punting the ball out of the end zone, they took the safety to only be up 2. And then Calgary kicked a field goal on the last play of the game to win the game by 1. I mean, you gotta trust your defense in that situation, don't you? I think they made the wrong decision. He admitted that if he could have a do-over, he would make a different decision. But it's a bad call, and it cost his team the game, possibly.
Yeah, it is a bad call. You never, with that much left in the game, you're never giving up points. You know, even if your team gives up a touchdown on that last drive, you know, it's we didn't hold, we gave up a touchdown. That's nothing new. It happens. That's actually quite a common football play. But giving up a safety with under 2 minutes left is just inexcusable as a head coach. You know, you can say he learned from it. Obviously he's going to, because, that's just a terrible look for a coach. But I don't like any bit of it.
No, it happens in the CFL. You give up those safeties, but you can't do it to allow the team to kick a field goal to win. You got to keep that 4-point lead. Even if the Stamps get the ball around the 50, they still have to score a touchdown, and they hadn't all game long. So you just got to trust your defense in that situation. Just a bad call. And Ottawa's now lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, tough slide for Ottawa right now. But Dominique Davis is coming back this week, I believe.
It's looking that way. It's looking like he will be back, so Jonathan Jennings can go back to sitting on the bench and being terrible.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. We'll move on to the Edmonton game. Not really a whole lot to talk about here. They crushed the Argos 26-0. Shaq Cooper started at running back in place of CJ Gable, who has been unreal this year. And Cooper ran all over the Argos in his first start this year. He had 128 yards and a touchdown to lead the way. And I picked him up on fantasy for about $3,500 in DraftKings this week. And he got me 30 fantasy points on my way to my 3rd straight week winning money in DraftKings. So thanks, Shaq Cooper. You're a true beauty. But it looks like CJ Gable will be back this week against Calgary.
Yeah, just a real thumping there. 26-0 is a tough look for Toronto, and they need to do something to right the ship. They're gonna. I sense a serious house cleansing coming.
Yeah, well, the thing is, their defense is good, but they're on the field for so long. Corey Chamberlain runs a good defense, but I just don't know if he has head coach capability anymore. But one of the better defensive coordinators in the league for sure. They did bring back Bear Woods though this week. And should we just talk about the trade now since we're already on the Argos?
We might as well.
Zach Collaros goes back to Toronto where his career started off. The Riders traded him. In return, the Riders get a 4th-round pick that apparently can turn into a 2nd-round pick if Collaros hits like a certain game mark or if he gets re-signed. So, I don't know. All in all, a decent trade for both teams. The Argos need a quarterback, but I don't know if Collaros is the answer. I don't even think he should be playing football anymore. The Riders get a pick out of it when Collaros probably wasn't returning to the team no matter what with how Fajardo has been playing. So, good trade for the Durs, and you get a little bit of veteran presence on that Argos team.
Yeah, will it be enough to right the ship when Collaros does come back? I don't know. When do we know when, Riley?
Well, I believe this week he's allowed to be off the 6 game, but he is still on the 6 game injured list last I checked. So I didn't even know you could trade players on the 6 game injured list, honestly. So maybe he can come off with Toronto next week. I'm not too sure, but I know that for sure he could play next week.
Well, it would be interesting to see how he comes back after the multiple injuries. What was it? It was 3 snaps, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's only started 8 games for the Riders in a season and a half. Or a season and a game, I guess, even. So,
since his season-ending injury, last season-ending injury in Hamilton.
Yeah. So, I mean, he hasn't played since the 3rd snap of the CFL season. It's been a tough go for him. I feel bad for him, but I think he really needs to consider retirement.
Yeah, I think Toronto will be the last-ditch effort here.
Yeah, so there's Toronto news. Bear Woods re-signs the linebacker who has had some success in Toronto and Montreal. And Collaros, now QB for the Argos. Moving on to Hamilton and Winnipeg, our proclaimed game of the week, and it was a good game, but, I mean, Hamilton took down the Bombers 23-15, but they lose Jeremiah Masoli, another star quarterback in the CFL, done for the season, torn ACL on a non-contact play. He was trying to plant, and his body just crumpled. Didn't look good. He walked off the field, so I had a little bit of hope, but the next day they said ACL it was. He's done for the season. That's now 6 of 9 starting QBs in the CFL that have missed games this season. It's a pandemic right now in the CFL to lose a starting quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is right now not a good look for the CFL, having the faces of almost all of your franchises going down is just it's just not a great look for the CFL.
Well, and the problem is that a few of them have been non-contact. I mean, Bo Levi Mitchell hurt his pectoral throwing. Masoli's non-contact ACL. Don't really know what happened to Dom Davis. Matt Nichols was out for a few plays, but he actually managed to start the next game when it wasn't looking so good. Obviously, Collaros is the ugly one in that whole situation. So, yeah, I think the CFL's done a good job of protecting the QBs, but I mean, when you're an athlete, just stuff like that happens sometimes.
Yeah, unlucky season.
And finally, the Riders crushed the Lions 45-18. William Powell had his best game as a Rider, 146 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. Ryan Langford was the lone bright spot for the Lions. He returned a missed field goal and a kick for a touchdown, so he's looking good. BC doesn't really play him in the offense. He's only been there for a few weeks, but they've got to find a way to get him into the offense because he seems to be a bit of a spark plug for that team that desperately needs one.
Yeah, the Lions continue to struggle back-to-back against Saskatchewan. No doubt that would be a loss there. They are just not a good football team right now. The special teams for the Riders would be something of concern.
I agree. And they were probably the best in the league last year, but now that Dickey has taken over as head coach, it seems like he's still the special teams coordinator, but it just seems like they're not quite where they were last year when he could just concentrate on special teams.
Yeah, definitely. Another highlight for the Riders has to be that O-line. You've had no quarterback sacks in, 3 weeks? 3 consecutive weeks?
2 straight games, I believe.
2 straight games.
Yeah.
Okay, so two weeks. And also now having William Powell go off for 146 yards and 3 scores. That O-line is playing with some confidence, and that's what they need to protect this young quarterback.
And the thing is that Brendan Labatt's not even back yet. He's been practicing the last 2 weeks, so it looks like he's getting close, but he's probably the best O-lineman we have, and he hasn't even played yet this year.
Yeah, so once they get their leader back, it will be It'll be full steam ahead, Riley. It's exciting, and because that O-line is playing so strong, just naturally as a quarterback, Fajardo is just going to be getting even more and more confident with every snap he takes.
Yeah, it's on the upswing for the Riders. We'll see if they can continue the momentum this week.
Definitely. All right. Well, that is the CFL recap from last week. I think we should do a little bit of a transition to the NFL. Tons of news going out. I would like to start with the top 10, NFL top 10, just to highlight it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So counting down, this one's a little bit of a surprise for me. We have in the 10th spot, Von Miller. Going down then into the 9 spot, we have your Atlanta Falcons, Julio Jones.
Bullshit. Julio should be the number one receiver.
I think he definitely should. Him or even DeAndre.
DeAndre was at 11, I believe.
Yeah. And then also a surprise for me, someone who did not have a great season, Aaron Rodgers in the 8th spot.
Yeah.
That sort of just seems, I don't see the NFL keeping Aaron Rodgers out of the top 10, but that's just me. Then in 7, like we just mentioned, we do have Antonio Brown. Interesting, last year he was the second ranked player in the NFL. So a bit of a regression.
Yeah, and I think he should have regressed even further, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I do too. Next, we have in the 6th spot, Tom Brady. Last year, he was in the 1 spot, so quite a regression for Tom Brady. But he's getting old, and he won the Super Bowl. So that's that there. And then continuing on to number 5, we have Todd Gurley. Last year he was actually ranked number 6, so he's moving up.
Yeah.
Surprising that the season that he had, he only moved up 1 spot. That's a little interesting.
Yeah, he based on last year, I like that spot for him. But those knee injuries, man, they're sketchy.
Yeah, they are. They are scary. In the 4th spot, we have, and also this is incredibly surprising for me, the league MVP in the NFL is the 4th ranked player in their top 100 rankings as Patrick Mahomes. That's bizarre. Then in front of him in the 3 spot, we have Khalil Mack. And then this is surprising. Drew Brees. We have him ranked in the 2 spot. Last year, he was ranked 8. I don't see how you can give Drew Brees the number 2 spot over Patrick Mahomes.
That's the thing. I think I'm okay with Mahomes being at the 4 spot, but there's no way that Brees is ahead of him.
No. Sure, it was a milestone season for Drew. What was it? He passed the all-time passing yards, I believe it was.
Yep, all-time passing yards and career completions.
And career completions. So a couple moments for Drew that season, but do career moments, should they have a bit of a pull in a yearly top 100? No, I don't think so. But that's where he is. And then, of course, I don't think this actually should not be a surprise to anyone. In the 1 spot, Aaron Donald. The man's an absolute beast. There's nothing more to say about that.
Yeah, Donald is the best NFL player, hands down. He's a monster. He gets double-teamed. He gets triple-teamed from that D tackle spot. And he had 20.5 sacks last year, 25 tackles for a loss, and 41 QB hits. He didn't even show up until the preseason was over. He didn't even do a preseason last year and still was just the most dominant player in the NFL.
Yeah, he's a freak of a human. And last year he was ranked 7, so a huge jump for him. A little interesting statistic coming from Aaron Donald. This was a little late in the season last year. I can't remember which exact week it was, but they had him beating his man off the snap in 48% of snaps.
Yeah, that's...
So basically, every second snap, you're getting beat by Aaron Donald. That statistic alone is mind-boggling.
Yeah, he's a freak of nature. He's so good. I love him.
Can you imagine playing against someone who literally beats you every second play?
Like, just straight off the ball, too. Like,
yeah, just just straight beats you.
Yeah.
It's a wild,
Yeah,
wild statistic. But yeah, that is the NFL Top 100.
Interesting
I
fact
agree.
that I'm just reading on NFL.com here. No player has ever three-peated as Defensive Player of the Year, so Donald is going for that this year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we also have a record contract signing in Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints. He signs a 5-year, $100 million contract, being the highest paid receiver in NFL history, and he has $65 million of that guaranteed. So the man got paid, and he is now set.
Yeah, and you were talking to me pre-show that the Falcons might have been smarter to sign Julio before Michael Thomas got this, because now Julio is probably going to want more.
I would pay Julio more. I personally think he's a better receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, you put and that also has to do with the quarterback. If you put Julio Jones with Drew Brees, that wouldn't be fair. Matty Ice is a great quarterback, but Drew Brees is a hell of a quarterback. So I could expect Julio to get like 115 on a 5-year and like 70 guaranteed.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
I could see that.
Yeah, like
it won't be much.
110, 115, yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, and probably 70 guaranteed, I would think.
Yeah, he deserves it.
Yep, he definitely does. Then I guess some non-signings continuing into this week as well. Zeke still hasn't got his contract. Doesn't look like he's going to get it. And Melvin Gordon is also holding out, and that doesn't look good if you're a Chargers fan.
No, or a Cowboys fan, really. Like, I feel like most of their offense is based on Zeke's ability to run the ball. They signed Alfred Morris, but, like, Alfred Morris is no Ezekiel Elliott. I think the Chargers have a better chance without Gordon than the Cowboys do without Zeke. I mean, Austin Eckler looked pretty good when Gordon was hurt last year, and they still have Keenan Allen. Who's the other receiver there? Sorry, it's slipping my mind here.
Mike Williams,
yeah. Those like that's a good 1-2 receiver, and Eckler is capable. And I think Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. So I think the Chargers have a better chance of doing good without their running back, but neither team would prefer it, that's for sure.
Yeah. And also Zeke is continuing to make headlines pretty much all offseason, it seems like. This is pretty much what we've been reporting on, is now Zeke is getting sued $20 million over an alleged car accident cover-up.
Yeah, it's... The guy just needs to get out of his own way at this point. I mean, he wants more money, but he continues to prove to be a detriment to the organization and the brand of the Cowboys. How can you pay a guy when you don't really know what he's going to do in the offseason?
To be completely honest, this is pretty on brand for the Cowboys here, Riley.
No, that's fair.
Yeah. Don't know much of the details behind this. Apparently, this has actually just come out, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, so look for some sort of settlement, but we'll see. What else we got? Interesting news. I would say this is more noise than news if we had to really break it down. But John Gruden says Nathan Peterman is growing on him. I guess John didn't watch the last couple of seasons with him in Buffalo, being statistically, I think, the worst quarterback in NFL history.
Didn't he have like more interceptions than completions at one point, or like in a game or something? Like,
yeah, I think it was in a game or something. Some crazy statistic
so
like that.
Bad. How did he get a job again?
Yeah. It makes you wonder. This could also be Hard Knocks hype.
Yeah.
This could have been him getting cameras around him, HBO's in his face.
Yeah, John Gruden likes the spotlight.
Yeah, giving the backup some love. But yeah, that's noise. Don't even take that into consideration. And AJ Green successfully went through surgery on his foot, so he's out 4 to 6. Riley.
Yeah, that's a tough one for him. He was really looking to get back after an injury-plagued season last year, and the Bengals were already going to be bad, and without AJ maybe for the first few weeks, it could be ugly there. in Cincy.
Yeah, definitely could be. Well, that's the news. That's the NFL news. That's a bit more news than we thought. We have the Hall of Fame game coming up on Thursday or today, because that's generally when we are posting this. I think the Hall... Yeah, it's a bit more noise than anything. Yeah, it's just like...
No one really plays
I think it means less than preseason. Yeah, it means less than preseason.
Yeah, Denver versus Atlanta. I'll watch it for maybe the first quarter and a half.
Yep.
And then I'll probably switch over to the Durs game.
Yeah, but Canton is getting some new inductees, so that's always exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hall of Fame class is more exciting than the game.
Yeah, it definitely is. We'll have highlights from that and a bit of a chat around the this year's inductees probably next week when we do our fantasy picks. All right. Speaking of picks, what a smooth transition that was, Riley.
Sick.
Well, let's set up some people to make some money. Let's
All
go
right.
through your CFL picks.
Well, if you want to make money, you might want to follow me just on the straight up betting line, because once again last week I went 3-1 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. It was a tough week for the spread because I think Calgary kind of pooped the bed a little bit against Ottawa. And I picked Winnipeg to win by -2.5, which I thought was basically a lock. And then Jeremiah Masoli goes down. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is it. But it didn't work out that way. Hamilton's defense kind of kept them in it, and they picked up the win. So 2-2. 19-8 straight up on the season now, and 16-11 against the spread. That straight up marker, though, I'm pretty proud of that so far.
Yeah, you are doing well. You just got to bring that spread up, right?
Yeah. All right, Thursday, doubleheader again this week. 7:30 Eastern, Winnipeg's at Toronto. Winnipeg lost last week. I see them coming out and absolutely throttling the Argos this week to make up for that loss. I'm going to take Winnipeg -14 in that one. It's a high spread, but I could see Winnipeg winning by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, best team in the CFL versus the worst. And just a 14 spread. I'll take that.
The second of the doubleheader on Thursday, Hamilton at Saskatchewan. The Riders on a 2-game heater. Hamilton has just lost their starting QB for the season. I'm taking the Riders -3. I mean, Hamilton might be missing Brandon Banks, offensive lineman Darius Sirocco, and defensive end Adrian Tracy. They're all questionable to play. Jeremiah Masoli obviously out for the rest of the season. I'm taking the Riders -3, and not really worried about that one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'd look for Charleston Hughes of the Riders to have an absolute field day.
Yeah, he's pretty good at football, Eli.
He is. You could say that.
Friday, 7 o'clock Eastern, Ottawa at Montreal. The Red Blacks, not very good in the past 4 games. They've lost 4 in a row. Doesn't get easier when they take on Montreal, who's looked unreal, realistically, over the past 3 weeks. Montreal is favored to win by 7, and I think Dom Davis is coming back. So I'm going to take the Red Blacks +7, but I am going to take Montreal to win the game.
Interesting. A little upset, a half upset pick. I think Ottawa just wins it outright.
Do you?
Yep, I do.
Interesting. All right, we'll see how that one plays out. And then the Battle of Alberta, Saturday night in Calgary, Edmonton at the Stamps. Edmonton crushed Toronto last week, but realistically, everyone except BC has crushed Toronto. Edmonton's offense looks good. Their defense is probably top 2 in the league. And honestly, Edmonton's been off to a good start with a bunch of new players. They're only going to get better as they all continue to mesh. For Calgary, Nick Arbuckle threw for 370 for the Stamps last week and looks to have settled in nicely under center. It looks like Romar Morris, who tore his Achilles in the West Final last week, will be back at running back for the Stamps. Couldn't come at a better time. Kadeem Carey went out last week. He's done for at least this week, and their regular starter, Don Jackson, is still out. So I think the Stamps play an inspired game at home. They don't lose at home very often. I'm going to take Calgary +1 and to win outright, obviously, with that +1. I think the Stamps win at home this week against the Esks.
I'll probably go against you on that one. I think Edmonton's going to come in and roll over Calgary.
Interesting.
I think they're going to come in and remind Calgary that they're going to need their starting quarterback if they want to go far.
Well, Bo has one more week against Winnipeg next week on the 6th game, and then he aims to be back against Montreal. Actually covered the Stamps this past week for Sportsnet 960, and Bo talked today, as in Wednesday, and said he's hoping to be back for Montreal, so he's about 2 weeks out right now.
All right. Well, Calgary, you've got something to look forward to. I have a question for you, Riley.
Yeah,
now
what's
that
up?
the Riders have traded Zach Collaros, do you think we're going to commit to Cody Fajardo as the face of the franchise moving forward at the quarterback position?
Well, now they have 3 young quarterbacks. They have Fajardo, they have Isaac Harker, and they have Brian Bennett. And I think they're just committed to one of those young QBs being good. So I think they roll with all 3 of them for this foreseeable future. And, I mean, Cody Fajardo, for the most part, besides that Stamps game, has looked the part as a starting QB in the CFL. So, I mean, unless he falls off a cliff, ride the lightning.
Yep. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see and the quarterback pool itself in the CFL wouldn't be great isn't great,
here's
to be
the
honest.
thing. Chris Strevler is a free agent, the backup in Winnipeg, who's looked very good in his limited action. Great running QB. He's a free agent after this season, so he will be highly coveted in this offseason.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I mean, that answers my question. That's one thing. I wanted to bring that up earlier, but I just completely forgot. I think it, Riley.
Yeah,
what else? Do we have really anything to cover?
I don't think so. We covered the CFL. We covered the NFL. Next week, look for our QB picks. We were supposed to do it this week, but schedule conflicts stopped that from happening. So next week, we will start with you and Harry will do your top 10 QBs, busts, and sleepers. And we'll continue with that with RBs, tight ends, and receivers the following episodes. So, yeah, that'll be exciting for sure.
Yeah, you can definitely look forward to some arguing and bickering amongst Harry and myself on that one next week, as we both are quite opinionated when it comes to fantasy football.
Yeah, those will be some entertaining episodes, that's for sure.
Definitely. All right. Well, as always, thank you all for listening. Follow us on the social medias at Squib Kick Radio. And with that, we will talk to you next week.
Peace.
I got you stuck off the realness. Think not the shit's too hot. Too hot. Too hot. Rock you in your face. Dab your brain with your nose bone. I'm a vampire walking on the surface of the sun.